righty, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to this week's edition of Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. It is Wednesday, February 26th, 2025. I'm the Maestro Jim Carver. This is episode 122. We are already hitting near that tail end of winter and into spring. We finally had some nice weather out here in the St. Louis area. But, folks, before we get started with all that, I want to say, yes, if you're watching the audiovisual episode version of this show, yeah, it's a pretty bland background. I can tell. I know. We're working on it. When you move, things tend to get a little crazy. But, nevertheless, we're still doing pretty good, if I do say so myself. So, with all that being said, Roundabout Sports can be found on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Pocket Casts, and anywhere else where you stream your podcasts. Be sure to follow Interstate 70 Sports Media on Facebook, on X, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find Roundabout Sports on its very own Facebook page as well. Be sure to check out the Blues Fan Forum podcast and the Other Guys Sports podcast airing every other Sunday, as well as airing with issues with wrestling with Jared Shannon and Christopher Miles. Now, before we get started, there's also two more pieces of news regarding the show. Next week, which is the first one of March 5th, I'll have the pleasure of speaking with Blues PA announcer Tom Calhoun. I am extremely looking forward to that time, getting to speak with Tom all about his career and a lot of his thoughts regarding the Blues. And in 2 weeks, as you know, the show is Roundabout Sports with Babs and the Maestro. And for the past few weeks, past month and a half, Babs has not been here. I am grateful to announce that in 2 weeks, on the March 12th episode of Roundabout Sports, the amazing Babs will return to the show. And I'm very much looking forward to it. So, absolutely. And by then, hopefully, things are a lot more decorated behind me. But now that I got all that out of the way, I think it's time we kind of talk about some of the things that are happening in this world of sports. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, with the NFL offseason in full swing, the NFL is going over rule changes and things that they can improve upon from prior seasons. So it's been reported that the NFL is considering making changes to the overtime rules in the regular season. Now, obviously, they've changed the overtime rules in the past, but now it's time, they said, to change the regular season ones. Says League Executive Troy Vincent, quote, "It's time to rethink the overtime rule." So, the competition committee agrees that overtime rules need to be addressed. And the thing of it is, from 2017 to 2024, the receiving teams in overtime won 56.8% of the games. Now, current rules allow both teams a possession in overtime, unless the first team that receives the ball scores a touchdown. If he scores a touchdown, that's it, game over. And by the way, Eddie, thank you so much for tuning in as always every week. Eddie is a loyal listener, and I am extremely grateful to have him always tuning in. Next up, I wanted to say, the rules are different in the playoffs, okay? So both teams do get a chance to have a possession, even if the offense scores a touchdown on the opening drive. That came, interestingly enough, when the Bills lost to the Chiefs in the 2023 divisional round. Now, making the overtime rules the same in the regular season as in the postseason is one solution that they have in mind. Another change is this one. I know my dad is going to be sad about because he loved doing this when I was playing football in high school. The NFL plans to use its virtual measuring system to determine first downs this year. Now, this does not officially eliminate the chain gang, but it regulates it to a backup. Kind of that second opinion type thing. So the competition committee says they'll also review expansion of the replay assistance to include more fouls, but they're still a wishy-washy topic. Now, the expansion under those would be considered for roughing the passer, unnecessary roughness, face masks, tripping, illegal crackback blocks, and horse collar tackles. So, this one, there was a lot of changes that were made in the past season. The biggest one perhaps came to the onside kick. In fact, teams this year went 3 for 50 when trying to go for an onside kick, which is the lowest percentage since 2001. And then we come to the last, but certainly not least, change that's being proposed. That change being the tush push. Now, the tush push is something that obviously the Eagles have made extremely famous. And originally, it was an unnamed team that was pushing to get the play banned in the NFL. Well, it was then revealed to us that that team was the Green Bay Packers, and that they have been heavy on trying to ban the tush push from, the NFL. A lot of controversy surrounding that. A lot of people, especially old school fans, say, hey, if you don't want to deal with it, well, the simple solution is just stop it. That's all you got to do. So that's kind of where we're at with a lot of the rule changes that the NFL is going to be looking at over the course of this season, off season. Right now, some opponents also have argued the play is dangerous, but Troy Vincent said the league found no injuries occurred during the tush push in 2024. So there you have it on that one. Next up, I want to fast track a little bit to the Cardinals. Because basically what's happening with the Cardinals is that, they're in the middle of what they want to consider a rebuild period. Okay, well, here's my thing with the Cardinals and rebuilding. You take Mason Wynn, Brendan Donovan, Lars Nootbaar, Ivan Herrera, and Nolan Gorman, and Alec Burleson. They are a combined 0 for 35 so far. If this is the, I guess the best way to put it is, if this is what you are expecting, if this is the rebuild that they are talking about, then everybody better buckle up, because this is going to be a long, bumpy ride. So that's where I think a lot of the frustration lies with me. But to each their own on that. Looking more at the St. Louis Cardinals and where things are at currently. I do want to say that our very own Andy Heckroth wrote a great article on Interstate 70 Sports Media regarding one of the pitchers, Eric Fetty, on the Cardinals. And, you know, it's interesting because last season, Fetty was one of the few bright spots of the 40-win Chicago White Sox. You know, he spent the 2023 season pitching in South Korea. He went 7-4 with a 3.11 ERA in 21 games for the White Sox. Now, the Cardinals traded for him on July 29th, and they also traded for Tommy Pham in a 3-team trade that sent Tommy Edman to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, I will say, going into the 2025 season, Fetty was in line to be a starter for the Cardinals. But now they're really trying to figure out what they're going to do. They might move him. They might keep him in the rotation. And after this season, his contract's up and he would be a free agent. So one of the players, I think this is a big reason. I think one of the players on the Cardinals that could be a thorn in the side for Eric Fetty is Michael McGreevy, the Cardinals' 2021 first-round pick. He went 3-0 in 4 games with a 1.96 ERA. And honestly, that ain't bad at all. And in his spring debut, he tossed 2 perfect innings. So, you know, 2 which he struck out 2 batters in the process as well. So I don't really think he's doing – I expect, you know, great – I expect a bigger season for McGreevy. You know, and I think it's not just him. I also think then you got to take into account Tink Hence. You got to take into account Quinn Matthews. There is a lot of people in this organization. And McGreevy, like I said, he was the one that shined the most. But once again today, the offense struggled. They lost 7-0 to the Yankees. So basically, here's the high. The high point of this game was McGreevy needed just 21 pitches to record 6 outs. 21 pitches, and 14 of them were strikes. Now, yesterday, the Cardinals had 2 hits against the Blue Jays. Today, they had just 3 hits. First 16 batters were retired in order for the Cardinals. Look, and you know, Tink Hence struggled in the 3rd inning. He worked a 1-2-3 inning in the 4th. Ryan Fernandez struck out the side in his inning of work, and Riley O'Brien pitched around 2 hits to get a scoreless inning of his own. Now, here is another interesting piece of all this. The Cardinals struck out. I mentioned how bad that there was a group of Cardinals at the plate, 0 for 35. Yeah, today the Cardinals struck out 12 times. 12 times. Mason Wynn twice. Jordan Walker twice. Nolan Arenado twice. And keep in mind, Nolan Arenado made the 4-hour drive to Tampa because he didn't want to take consecutive days off. There's already a lot of issues going on regarding Nolan Arenado. Is Arenado going to be a Cardinal? Is, you know, it like as of now, of course, he's still on the team. But there is a lot of talk still regarding the future for Nolan Arenado. And we're looking at all this. And here's my thing. I don't think the Astros will trade for him. A lot of people might think they will, but this is why. First reason I don't think so is the contract. He's got 3 years left on his current deal. Okay. Set to make $21 million this year, $16 million next year, and $15 million in 2027. Now, it's still too pricey. The only way that Houston or any team most likely would trade for Arenado is if the Cardinals eat a lot of that contract. And the Astros are really close to baseball's luxury tax line of $241 million. And sources are saying that the Astros are very weary of exceeding that luxury tax for a second consecutive season. Now, another reason, so I hate to say it, but, it's the age factor. So, Arenado finished third in the NL MVP race in his second season with the Cardinals. Now, ever since then, I will say this. In the season, he hit 72 extra base hits in 148 games. Yeah, he has not done better. He has not done any better since. And I'm going to try to spare you all the big-time analytics of it, like the big, fancy, statistics. But I'm just going to be blunt with it. Okay, look. Arenado hit he hit 34 home runs in his first season with the Cardinals. 30 the next season, 26 the next season. Last year, just 16. He played more games last year than he did the 2 seasons before. He had 103 RBIs in 2022. He had 71 last year. He had a 293 average in 2022. He had a 272 batting average last year. It was his first season in which, or one of the first seasons in his career where he did not win either a Gold Glove or make the All-Star team. It's amazing. And like I said, he has been an MVP finalist multiple times. Also, over the past 2 seasons, let's not act like Nolan Arenado has not shown up to bat much. It's not like injuries have taken a toll. He's had over 1,200 plate appearances in the past 2 seasons. That is a pretty big sample size, folks. On top of that, I think the biggest reason, the Astros just don't have a fit. They moved Altuve to left field. So meanwhile, they have with Alex Bregman gone, they're going to put a bunch of options at second base. Brendan Rodgers, for example, could be a good example. Then you take a look at Isaac Paredes, who's probably going to be moved to third base. Basically, the Astros are wanting to play the young game too. And they're in a position where they can call up a lot of guys, shuffle the field around, see what they have to work with. And, with Kyle Tucker gone and Alex Bregman gone, Houston has a financially sensible and flexible roster. And by acquiring Arenado, that puts a big hole for Houston in both of those categories. Now, do I want to see a Nolan Arenado bounce-back season? Of course I do. I want to see it probably more than most people do. But is it going to happen? That's what we hope for. That's what I sure hope for. So that's where we're at with the sake of what's going on with Nolan Arenado and people that are wondering if Arenado is going to get traded. Like I said, I don't think he will, but to each their own, I guess. Moving forward now in the world of sports in the I-70 area, can I just say Mizzou basketball is extremely fun to watch. So Caleb Grill, who has shined as bright as a new penny, he led the way as Mizzou absolutely blew out South Carolina 101-71 on Tuesday night. So, let's basically right now, Grill has a 43.3% three-point shooting mark, which puts him in the top tier of three-point shooters in the country right now. Meanwhile, against South Carolina, the Tigers, who are now number 14 in the nation, hit 63.5% shooting, went 57.9 from deep. Mizzou is now 21-7 on the season, 10-5 in SEC play, and they've scored 100 points in back-to-back home games. And look, Anthony Robinson fouled Caleb Grill with 14 points and led all the players on the team with 8 assists. Mark Mitchell, Tony Perkins each had 13 points, and Tamar Bates had 11. This is what you call a team effort. And look at this. The Tigers have 2 more games on the road before a senior day affair on March 8th against the number 17 Kentucky Wildcats. Let's look at some of the teams Mizzou's already beaten. Number 1, and keep in mind, these were the rankings at the time of them beating these opponents. Number 1, Kansas. Number 3, Florida. And most recently, number 4, Alabama. And in that win over Alabama, Mizzou dropped over 110 points. And so this Saturday, the Tigers are going to Nashville to take on Vanderbilt. And tip-off is on the SEC network and set for 5 p.m. Central. So quite frankly, there's not a lot more you can ask for when it comes to the Mizzou men's basketball team. I really am excited for them, and I want them to make a lot of noise come March Madness. With that said, folks, there is one more story I really have to get out of the way. So give me 1 second. Apparently, right now we are also getting close to the UFL season. So UFL rule changes. I started the show with the NFL rule changes. Well, I'm going to end the show, this shorter show, talking about the UFL rule changes. So earlier this week, it was reported the UFL is moving the touchback on kickoffs into the end zone to the 35-yard line. And they are eliminating the onside kick. So the only way a team that is tied or trailing in the fourth quarter is able to keep the ball after scoring is a fourth down conversion try. Now, the UFL put touchbacks at the 25-yard line a year ago, while the NFL settled on the 30. Now, the 18 UFL is moving the kickoff to the 30-yard line this year after kicking from the 20 last year. UFL teams had the option of attempting an onside kick at any point last season. Any team tied or trailing in the fourth quarter also could try to convert a 4th and 12 from its 28-yard line to keep possession. Now it's announced that the fourth down play is going to be the only option they have. UFL coaches will also get a second challenge if their first challenge is successful. Previously, regardless of what happened, good, bad, or ugly, coaches only got one challenge. Now there are no, the UFL is keeping their point after attempt rules of 1 point on a successful play from the 2, 2 points from the 5, and 3 points from the 10. There are no points after kicks in the UFL. The league will continue to allow a second forward pass on a play as long as both passes are thrown behind the line of scrimmage. That is your plethora of news from the world of the United Football League. Like I said, folks, episodes like this, shorter, sweeter, not as much to talk about. Like I said, we're at the tail end of February 26th, and we are heading into March, heading into spring, which a lot of things going to happen. Getting closer to opening day. We're getting closer to March Madness. Hockey season, still, I would say full swing, but you don't swing, But point notwithstanding, a lot of work to be done here as well. I personally just want to thank everybody who tunes in every week, who listens to the show, and has bared with me through a lot of times in life. And this is one of the busiest times of my life in the history of doing this show. Moving is never a easy experience. It's a blessing, though. And, it's coming together. I promise it will. Like I said, next week, March 5th, Tom Calhoun is scheduled to appear on the show. If any changes are made, I will report it on our social media pages. Also, I want to let you know that in 2 weeks, Babs will return to Roundabout Sports. Keep in mind, it's Roundabout Sports with Babs and the Maestro. So it'll be great to not just have my co-host back, but to have my friend back. And I am so looking forward to it after a leave of absence. With all that said, folks, we're going to wrap it up this evening here on Roundabout Sports. So we always end the show by putting up the NAMI helpline. That is 1-800-950-NAMI. That's 1-800-950-NAMI. The National Alliance on Mental Illness is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for those who struggle with mental health issues, as well as their families. Also, we put up the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, and for that, you dial 988. The line is open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. Understand that you're never alone in this world. There is always somebody out there who loves you, who cares about you, who wants nothing but the best for you. There are all kinds of struggles in this world that we go through. Whether it be physically, mental, financial, spiritual, all of your feelings, all of your struggles, everything regarding you is valid. You matter. And that doesn't mean, though, that you have to face these struggles and trials alone. You are just a phone call, a text message, an appointment, anything away from getting perhaps that life-saving help that you need. And you could also be the listening ears and watchful eyes for somebody else out there as well. Once again, I want to thank everybody that's tuned in this evening and every evening prior. And I look forward to next Wednesday night for episode 123 of Roundabout Sports. I'm the Maestro Jeremy Carp, and remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading. Good night, everybody.